What's going on, Los Angeles? Big day. Big day for LA football for both our teams. One obviously directly relating to the Chargers, and one indirectly, but also directly relating to the Rams. Thanks for tuning in. This is Dyrud After Dark on the LA Football Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Dyrud. Been a while since one of these late ones, so excited to get on here. We'll let you guys all kind of trickle in here. Going to keep this real open, simple. We're literally talking Mike Williams extension, what that means for the Chargers, for free agency, for the draft. And we're talking about the Russell Wilson trade because I know at Seahawks, but hey, that affects the Rams obviously in a big way. And Bobby Wagner was just released also, so we can get into that a little bit. So simple show, not going to be super, super long. I say that every time. They'll probably talk for an hour and a half. But, as you guys get in here, drop your questions. Would love to answer them. Hope everyone's doing well out there. It's a beautiful Tuesday. I'll just say before we kind of get rolling, we've had some big things happen with the LA Football Network here recently, which I'm ecstatic for. We had we'll just kind of loosely say, I'll just say it right now. Brian Price, former, all Pac-12 defensive player for the UCLA Bruins, is going to be joining the network with a show of his own. So we are thrilled to have BP join the network. Awesome guy. We met him at Radio Row, actually. Got to know him and, met his family and just a good dude and wants to do more after football now. And it was a good fit. So we're super excited for that show, which we'll be announcing the more logistics of it soon. And then just today, busy day. Sua Cravens, former USC great. He's going to be joining the network with the show. We're thrilled to have Sua join us. For those that don't know, we are doing he's doing, like a 7-on-7 tournament in June with a bunch of, it's a high school tournament, but he's having a bunch of former and current players come and coach. And we at the LA Football Network are the sole streaming service for that. So we're going to stream it on our website, on YouTube, interview players, kind of make it a fun broadcast kind of deal. So we're thrilled. Big things going on here. Big things going on. And it's all thanks to all you guys that tune in, that listen to all of our shows. We just had Charters Unleashed. They just did a show right before me, live show. Had a bunch of viewers on there listening to the Mike Williams news. So if any of you trickle in here that already listened to that, thank you. Maybe we'll get a little different perspective. But we'll see. So, but yeah, good stuff. I got to talk quickly. This we got kind of a new partner here, which I'm stoked about. If I can get this on camera. It's going to be blurry probably because of the setting I have. Let's see here. There we go. A little bit. You can see Slap Dick Whiskey. My guy, Coach Jason Brown. He was on Last Chance U. He's been a football coach. Does a Slap Dick podcast. Another guy we met on Radio Row, and just a good, cool dude. Knows his stuff. Unfiltered. He's going to give it to you raw, no chase, all the time. And, he does this whiskey. He's right here in SoCal. He's an LA guy, lived in Long Beach for years. And so we're like, hey, how can we help promote this brand? So, he sent me a couple bottles. I've got, First Glass right here, which I popped just a few minutes ago. Delightful. What's fun, guys, if you're whiskey drinkers, if you listen to my show a lot, I talk about whiskey a lot. I love whiskey. But it's made with agave. So very different taste. Delicious though. So super easy to pick up. You can literally go to his store. It's CoachJBStore.com. CoachJBStore.com. Use the promo code SlapDickLA for some, a few dollars off there. You're helping support local LA business, local LA legend, and it'll ship right to your door. Couldn't be easier. So Slapdick LA is the promo code, CoachJBStore.com. You'll see it right there. But I'll be drinking that all during the show. Keeping the whistle wet, right? The pipes lubed up. So it just sounds so dirty when you say it like that, right? Pipes lubed up. But delicious. So Slapdick whiskey. Make sure to check it out. All right. How we doing, guys? How we doing? I love this because, the season never ends. Football season never ends, and it helps too when one of your teams goes to the Super Bowl because then, the actual season doesn't end till mid-February. Rams, taking it down. If you haven't seen this shirt, this is our network, our Super Bowl shirt. Pick one of those up at LAFBnetwork.com. But then you get free agency. Well, first you get, all the bowl games for college are right actually before the Super Bowl, the Senior Bowl, Shrine Bowl, NFLPA Bowl. So you get all that kind of the draft excitement. Then you get the combine, which just happened last week that we tried to cover last week. And now it's like, now we're in free agency. Free agency kicks off next week, the tampering period on the 14th. And then after that, then you get full draft swing into April. And then May, you get mini camps. Like June is really the only like true dead month of the football season. So today, let's start with Chargers news because it was actually on the team, the Chargers. For those that don't know, if you live under a rock or aren't on Twitter or don't follow the LA Football Network, first of all, what are you doing? Make sure you follow that. But yeah, Mike Williams signs a 3-year, $60 million deal, $40 million guaranteed contract. Again, not all the details have come out about it. It's $40 million guaranteed. It's supposedly a cash payment of $28 million for this season. We'll talk about it a bunch, but that does not mean cap hit this season. We just put an article up actually at LAFBnetwork.com, which goes into a little bit more detail of what we know. There's some speculation that it'll range anywhere from, a cap hit of 10 to 15 million this year, just based on how they can do roster bonuses, initial cash bonuses, moving money around. I mean, there's so much different language. So the $28 million figure for this season that you've seen going around does not mean a $28 million cap hit. Because I know that freaked a lot of people out, because obviously that is a huge chunk of, what the Chargers want to do in free agency. And we've talked a bunch. I've talked a bunch on my show what I think they should do out of house. And I've said many times, I think they're going to go after a big name cornerback. I think that's what they're going to allocate the big money to this offseason, whether it's J.C. Jackson or Stephon Gilmore or a Bryce Callahan, which wouldn't cost nearly as much, but they could get him and maybe another DB. But I think they really, really spend a lot of money in the DB room. And obviously, if you're allocating $28 million this year to Mike Williams, that would eat into that. But rest assured, it is not a $28 million cap hit. It's probably going to be in that $10 to $15 million range. I think I saw on Spoke Track, it's not listed yet, but there was like a Twitter comment or something of the minimum cap hit it could be is like 6 something million. I don't think it'll go that low, but that's like, it could range anywhere from 16 to 20, right? Because that 3-year deal it comes out to 20 million average per year, but obviously that's going to change. So, but yeah, this is a great move for the Chargers. You have the franchise tag in your back pocket, which would have been about 19 million this year. But then you got to go through all these contract talks again. You have all these talks again next year where the tag benefits you is you can truly kind of see, I guess, if this year was a fluke year. Like, let's say Mike Williams is a down year in 2022. Well, then you're off the hook. You can say, okay, well, I guess 2021 was, kind of a fluke year, 2022 down year. Now we can either get him back for cheap or we let him walk. That's kind of the one lone benefit of tag, but the players absolutely hate it. They want obviously some longevity. They want some consistency. They want to know what to expect moving forward in their careers. I wouldn't say GMs necessarily hate it, but again, you want to just get the deal done and then focus elsewhere. You don't want to have the tag and then you're like, well, we got to talk to Mike Williams all year long, his agent that is, about the future. Now that's off. Don't have to worry about it. 3-year deal. And I like the 3-year deal. I think I said that before too, because you're not doing a crazy 5 to 6 year deal locked in with over 100 million plus. 3 years gives you, some wiggle room if it doesn't work out, which I think it will. I think we saw how they want to use Mike Williams in this offense last year, and he fits perfectly for what they want to do. This fits absolutely perfectly for what they want to do. But if it were to, for some reason, fail, 40 million guaranteed is not a crazy number, like 80 to 90 million guaranteed. They can get out of it in kind of 2 years, essentially. Play this year. If it's a down year, next year, see how it goes. And then kind of get out of it in the third year. Again, we don't know all the language of it, but I think that 3-year deal is real friendly for team, but it's also friendly for the player because if Mike Williams balls out in 3 years, he's still gonna be at a ripe age where he can get one more big contract. So it's really, I think, good for both parties. Because as a player, you want that longevity of the long-term deal, but also you're thinking, how can I maximize my contract value? And so Mike Williams, by signing this 3-year deal, he will then be 8 years into his career, still probably has that 3 to 5. I mean, probably that's being generous, but at the end of this, 8 years, probably a 3-year peak window. So we can still sign one more massive contract. Whereas if he signed a 5-year deal, at the end of that 5 years and he's in 10 years in the league, probably going to be then looking at not veteran minimum, but looking at more vet friendly contracts. So I think this is good for both parties. I really do. Football wise, makes a ton of sense. Let me get to a few just quick comments here. Both for life. So happy as a Chargers fan. Telesco is starting free agency off on the right foot. Totally agree. HH4. Nice signing today, Telesco. Bunch of hands clapping. Yeah. I think it was the move that needed to happen. I think we knew all along that Mike Williams wasn't going anywhere. They made very clear, and Brandon Staley made very clear how important he was to this offense, how much they loved him. I saw, he said in one interview how much of a fan he was. I can't remember who it was, and I'm not trying to talk ish or anything, but I saw someone kind of make of that he's a fan, as in not necessarily needing him on this team. I didn't hear it like that, but I saw that somewhere and I was like, I think that's plenty. I think that's reaching at straws there. I think it's very clear how much Staley loves him for this offense, how much Justin Herbert loves him for this offense. And here's the thing, guys. When it comes to players that have proven themselves in the NFL, the draft is unproven. We have all these prospects that we dig into, and Kinzel, real quick. Let me finish this thought. I'm going to get to this, so stick around. Don't bounce out here. I'm definitely going to talk about J.C. Jackson here in a minute. But you have all these, go into prospects, and we see these, it's a great receiving class, and it's like, okay, well, why spend the money for a receiver when we can get one for way cheaper? It's so much unknown, and there's definitely a play for that. Like if they were to, like Devontae Adams, for instance, obviously he got tagged today by the Packers, but if the Chargers were going to get him, it wasn't going to be a tag. It was going to be a legit signing. He was going to be wanting 25 million plus probably. That I think would have not been smart for the Chargers. That's too much money. But that 20 million per year average, which actually is different because of the way the wording is, especially when it comes to cap hit, you want to get the proven player that has shown A, they can play in the league, B, they fit in your system, C, they have a great rapport with your quarterback and coaching staff. Mike Williams have checked all those boxes. Yeah, there's been some up and down stuff, but with this coaching staff and with this quarterback, he has proven to be a top, you could argue a top 15 receiver. I mean, the Chargers right now have 2 top 15 receivers. You don't let that walk with the hope of having a receiver prospect being able to emulate what he's done. That's A. B, now by doing this, you free yourself up to A, not worry about receivers in free agency. You can focus on other positions. And B, you can your draft pick. You can really go A. I mean, if you want to, I saw some mention here about, different positions of need, but you can also just really take best position available. I mean, you don't have to pigeonhole yourself into taking a specific position because you've nabbed one of those guys that was already in house that really probably was a need. If you let him go, receiver then becomes a huge need because you have Keenan Allen and not a lot of provenness. Josh Palmer, I love, but he's not a number 2 receiver yet. Jalen Guyton, is he even going to be there next year? So, I just think it's a huge move that A, you lock up a premier player, but B, you free yourself up as a team to do so much more and have that freedom to be aggressive, but also not pigeonhole yourself. So it's a great move. Great move by Tom Telesco, Brandon Staley, all in company, the Spanos family. for making it happen. Happy Mike Williams is back. And like I said, we got an article up right now on LAFBnetwork.com. Make sure to check that out, which will have a lot more specifics. As the specifics come out on the actual nature of the deal, we will get more into that. But I think it's just, yeah, it's a good day for Chargers fans. And I think it's much better too that it wasn't a tag. You got a long-term deal out of it. Now you can just move on. Mike Williams is here to stay for the next 3 years. I think it's great. So with this signing, I want to get into this question here from, if I'm saying this right, Kinzel Tiamo. I'm going to assume the J is silent. I apologize if not. But odds on Telesco taking a big swing on JC Jackson. So if you listen to my show last week, and I'm not sitting here trying to pat myself on the back, but this has been my thought basically since the season ended. The Chargers, in my opinion, I thought they'd bring back Mike Williams. I really think they bring back Justin Jones on the defensive line. I just think he was perfect enunciation. Okay, there we go. Glad to hear it. Thank you. Got lucky. I got lucky. I can't take too much credit. Just got lucky. But yeah, I think they signed Justin Jones. I just think I think he was too important when I know there were some health concerns, but when he was healthy, it was proof how important he was to defense. I talked a lot all year, and probably I don't know how many people would agree with this, but outside of Derwin James, I thought he was the most important person, the most important player on that defense because of what he did against the run. So I think they bring back Mike Williams, they bring back Justin Jones, and then there's linebacker. What do they do with Kaiser White? There's all these different positions. I thought they were going to go all in on the cornerback market, all in. I think JC Jackson is absolutely a guy they target. I think if he ends up they price out somehow, which I mean, they have the most money, so they technically can't be priced out if they don't want to be. It just depends if it starts getting too rich for Tom to feel comfortable with, but they have the most money to play with in the NFL. So him, Stephon Gilmore, who is on the other side of 30, but I think he still has some good years left. Again, they could get him that 2-3 year deal. Doesn't have to be a max crazy contract. Get a 2-3 year deal. 2 year, 30 million, 2 year, 28 million, and call it a day. But I really do think JC Jackson is in play. I think that's becoming because, and here's another reason why. Brandon Staley, I know, has talked about wanting to create more depth in the secondary and, allocate resources to, positioning players differently. However, in Brandon Staley's system, and then you can also look back to Vic Fangio's system, which Staley runs a modification of what Vic Fangio created. You need a true dominant CB1. Have to have it. And Mike Davis, I love Mike Davis, but he's not a dominant. He's not Jalen Ramsey. I mean, no one's Jalen Ramsey, but he's not a true dominant CB1. Asante Samuel Jr. may ascend to that. Had a really, really good rookie year. I love Asante Samuel Jr. I think he has a ton of potential. But I don't know if you want to go into this next season with him as your CB1, right? Like if you can give someone that takes the pressure off of him where he can continue to grow, continue to blossom, continue to learn the system, continue to get in the NFL body right, because CB is one of the hardest positions to play. That's better for him too. So if they can bring in a JC Jackson or Stephon Gilmore to play that Jalen Ramsey type role, that takes so much pressure off the defense as a whole. And then that in turn is going to help the run defense, which they obviously had to have players there to help the run defense. But so I think that's just a long roundabout way of saying that, yeah, I absolutely think I think they're in on JC Jack. I'm not saying sitting here right now that he's going to get signed by the Chargers no matter what, but they will inquire. They will, I think, maybe even make an offer. And I would be, I would definitely not be shocked. I would be expect is not the right word. I assume there's a good shot that J.C. Jackson is a Charger come March 14th, 15th, whatever day you want to call it. They went big on Corey Lindsey last year. Made him one of the highest paid centers in the game. I think they go big on corner this year. Because for Brandon Staley's system to truly not work, but to truly become dominant, you need that dominant corner. And I know you have Derwin James, but Derwin, you don't want to have to. Derwin James can play anywhere. He's one of the most talented, athletic players in the NFL, period. I don't care what position you're talking about. But you want to be able to utilize him all over the place and not almost force him to be a corner, right? And if you get that dominant corner, now the depth can start to take care of itself. Obviously, health, you got to stay healthy, but the depth can start to take care of itself because you don't now need a really good CB3 or CB4 because your CB1 can be in an island. I mean, look at what the Rams, again, guys, you don't want to take too many parallels from the past regimes, but look at the Rams when Brandon Staley was their DC. They went into the season with Darius Williams and Troy Hill was their slot corner. Relatively unknown, unproven. There was a lot of concern. Trust me, for those, if there's any Rams fans in here listening, because I cover the Rams, there was a lot of concern going into the year about the depth at corner. A lot of concern. Well, then Troy Hill and Darius Williams have career years. In part because of what Jalen Ramsey brings to the table, in part because of how good of a coach Brandon Staley is. But that having that dominant corner takes that pressure off of those next tier guys. So if you bring in a J.C. Jackson, if you bring in a Stephon Gilmore, if you bring in, I love Bryce Callahan, but he's more of a slot guy. But you bring in one of those top name guys, all of a sudden Mike Davis and Asante Samuel Jr. become that much better because I promise you right now, those two guys are better than probably Troy Hill. Darius Williams was damn good last year or in 2020, had a very up and down this past season. And we could see Darius Williams in LA or with the Chargers. But yeah, Kinzel, that was a very long-winded answer saying, yes, I absolutely think Telesco and the Chargers do take a swing at JC Jackson. So this question here, we talked about CB1, need a top edge guy as well. Yeah, I mean, I talked about again was it last week or 2 weeks ago now? I don't remember, but I think they bring Uchenna back. And I'm sure there's mixed emotions in that Charger. I think Uchenna was showing growth throughout the year, that he got better and better. And I think he can be a top tier edge rusher. I know there's been Von Miller talk. To me, Von is either with the Rams or the Broncos. I think it's kind of a done deal with that. Unless the Chargers came and offered him a crazy amount of money, but I don't see, again, I think they're going all in on CB on corner. So, edge is definitely a need, but I think they stay in house with that. And then I think they get, Uchenna back. Obviously they got Bosa, drafted Chris Rumph last year. And I think they used one of their 11 draft picks or 2 on the edge position as well. So that's kind of where I see them allocating it. We still have a week or so, or I think a week exactly till the tampering period begins. So my opinion could change if we see different dominoes start to fall. But that's where I kind of see them going. So, got the first most important thing on the list done, getting Mike Williams signed. That was far and away the most important thing. They got that done. They can check that off. And then now we can focus on corner in free agency, focus on bringing back Justin Jones, which I know there's concern, doesn't stay on the field. That's absolutely concern. Absolutely concern. I just think what he does bring when he is there, you roll the dice again, especially because you locked up Mike Williams. Now at 17, if one of these top defensive tackle prospects falls, you can use a kick on that. You can get a guy in the second round. So you can build through the draft there because you haven't pigeonholed yourself. So I think you bring back Justin Jones and then you use the draft to fortify the position. Again, guys, they have 11 picks. 11 picks. 10 more holes to fill. What 10? I don't think they got 10 holes to fill. Last thing I'll say, and then we'll move over to the Rams because, I talked a bunch of free agency, so I don't want to bore people that I have talked about this a bunch already. But linebacker is interesting because I know Kaiser White, what a phenomenal season he had. For some reason, I just have a feeling they don't bring him back. And, I think part of that is Kaiser had a great season. If they want to go in free agency and get a guy like Bobby Wagner, who we'll talk about, a guy like Alexander Johnson from Denver, as good as Kaiser White was and how much of a breakout season he had, there were better backers against the run, which was the Chargers' biggest weakness. Now, I'm not saying Kaiser White was bad by any means, but a guy like Alexander Johnson for the Broncos, before he got injured, was third best linebacker against the run. And I think his financial price is going to be right around the same of Kaiser White. And if you get a guy that what he is best at is what you need most, then that makes a lot more sense to me. So I don't know if they do. I don't know if they will allocate any money to the linebacker position, but if they do, I personally kind of see it going elsewhere as opposed to Kaiser White. I would love Kaiser to be back. I hope he is. I just kind of think that's where the direction the team might go. And we'll see from there. But Drew Tranquil, obviously, you have the fan favorite, K9. We'll see how he develops or whatever, but I think we'll see how that shakes up. And I hope it's Kaiser, but we'll see. Oh, what up, my guys? GAC guys in the house. Kaiser at number 2, so we need a number 1. Yeah. It's interesting. It's just interesting to see what they'll do at that position. I think that it's not necessarily Staley, but that model of Fangio, the Rams, and the Staley's been in both those models. They've never really allocated a lot of money or resources for the linebacker position. It's kind of a draft and develop position. Because even with the Broncos, you look at, Josie Jewell and Alexander Johnson. Josie Jewell was a 4th-round pick. Alexander Johnson was a undrafted free agent. You look at the Rams, Corey Littleton, undrafted free agent. All these guys that end up having really solid careers with those respective teams go elsewhere and don't do a whole lot after that. It shows kind of how the system is built around not necessarily needing that top tier talent, if you will. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. Kyle Van Noy, that'd be interesting. I don't really think that happens, but I think this new coaching staff will do things differently because everyone looks at Tom Telesco and what he's done in the past. I think this new coaching staff has instilled a kind of different thought process in how Tom Telesco does things in free agency. So, and that's why I think, they'll take a look at Alexander Johnson, just because of how good he is against the run. And that is what they need fixing most, especially if you go out and pay for a top tier cornerback, then you're going to need to make sure you fix the run if you've got the pass allocated, right? And then if you focus on draft assets to, plug the middle up, but if you can get, if you can get a backer for cheap that really does that really, really good, it's worth looking at. So we shall see what they do. And yeah, Steven, Staley loves former Broncos. Yeah. Why not? Why not? Right. It'll be interesting what the Broncos do if they end up, because they went through like 8 backers last season with injury. Obviously both Josie Jewell and Alexander Johnson were injured. Both are free agents this year. So do they bring them both back? I know they're big on Baron Browning, who they drafted last year. Jason Stranad, who they drafted. They traded for Kenny Young, but he's a free agent also. So, they're also, it's like, what are they going to do at backer? They may throw the bank at those 2 guys just to kind of keep the keep that continuity there, but they have a new defensive coordinator also. So he may want to kind of instill his own thing, even though he also, Coach Evero, coming from the Rams, who coached with Brandon Staley before. So the intertwining branches are pretty insane. Insane. I'm having trouble talking tonight. It's been a long day already, guys. My daughter's been sick for the last 6 days. And then yesterday, a little parenting story here, which is not a good one. So you guys are probably going to judge me. But yesterday on a business call, we're talking kind of through that SUA stuff. So it was a great call. I'm standing literally like right here by my desk. My daughter's on the bed watching. I don't know what she was doing. And I'm kind of, I'm watching her, but I'm in the zone doing my thing. All of a sudden I turn around and boom, just face plants off the bed. Face first, hardwood floors down below. So she's been sick. Now she face plants. She's got a nice dinger on her eye here. So yeah, it's been a couple days. I think that's why my voice is probably hurting. But yeah, I'm loving all these. Let's see here. You think Tim could be addition to this defense? He's solid. Tim Settle. Who am I? Am I blanking, or was that a typo? You think? If I'm blanking, maybe that's someone I need to know. But send that back, Solo Man, because I'm not exactly sure who you're talking about. But yeah, Steven, the Fangio scheme, wants something. I mean, the NFL is a copycat league. You got the Shanahan offense is run everywhere, and yeah, the Shanahan offense is run by so many teams with variations. Obviously, the McVay offense is not exactly the Shanahan offense, but it's pretty damn similar. And the Fangio defense, everyone knows how that's starting to work now, and how nickel and dime packages are so important, and using athletes in the secondary. And so, okay. Tim Settle from Washington Commanders defensive tackle. So yeah, sorry, that flew right over my head. Again, been a long day, but I mean, anyone from the Washington defensive line, they've if Washington's done something right in the past 4 years, it's what they've done with that, front four. I mean, they've just have playmaker after playmaker on that defensive line. And so, I don't think there's any opposition to trying to bring one of those guys in, or look into bringing one of those guys that can really help with the run defense. So it's just going to be interesting to see when we see this first domino fall in free agency for the Chargers. That's going to be really telling. Obviously, they have to focus on, they have to cast their nets wide, right? They can't just hone in on one player. But I think if we see them, if JC Jackson is signed, or Stephon Gilmore, one of these CBs signed, then that's going to tell us, okay, well, that's going to allocate a lot of money with Mike Williams and that. So now they can go get some role players and then really focus on the draft to really fill holes. You never want to use the draft to fill holes going into the year, because again, there's so much unknown. These are rookies, all that. But it's something that I think, because of how important Mike Williams was and how important the cornerback position is, that's going to be the approach they take. Because if you can look at, and I keep repeating this, but look at the history of Fangio and the Rams, it's about a few star talented players and then a bunch of role guys that fit exactly what you want to do with the scheme. So you get your star on the defensive line, Joey Bosa, get your star in the secondary, and obviously you have Derwin James, but if you get a star corner there, and then you fill in with role players that truly fit exactly the scheme you want. And the guy I didn't even mention yet, and Steven, thank you for mentioning him, Sebastian Joseph Day is probably the most perfect fit in free agency for this team, and he's not going to cost a ton of money. I don't see him going back to the Rams, because Greg Gaines just balled out for the Rams. You can't play both of them. So can't pay both of them and can't play both of them. They both play the nose, which is exactly what the Chargers could use. And Sebastian Joseph Day, a former, I think, 6th round pick, developed with Coach, Henderson, who just won Defensive Line Coach of the Year for the Rams, and has really become a star. But he's an under the radar star in the sense that he's not going to get a ton of money. And so I think he is like the slam dunk perfect fit. I think all last year, Steven can attest to this. I know I talked about it on my show. Dan and Jake talked about it on Chargers Unleashed. I'm sure Steven and those guys talked about it on GAC. Everyone thought like John Johnson and Troy Hill were slam dunks to get signed by the Chargers because of Brandon Staley coaching them with the Rams. He could bring them over, slam dunk. Neither of them happened. Both actually went to the same team, just happened to be a different AFC team in Cleveland. But Sebastian Joseph Day is absolutely a slam dunk because he's not going to cost as much. I mean, John Johnson, I think, got $12 million. Troy Hill got $7 or $8 million. I don't see Sebastian Joseph Day getting in that range, especially for the position he plays. So that's a slam dunk. So I'm going to say it over and over again. Spend big at corner, bring in Sebastian Joseph Day, re-sign Nwosu and Justin Jones. And I think that's a great free agency haul. And obviously Mike Williams, who we sparked the conversation. And that is a great, great free agency haul. And then you go into the draft with, I mean, you really can go best player available. Obviously, they still have needs. Every team has needs, but you're not pigeonholed to force yourself to draft solely on need, which I think not just the Chargers, a lot of teams have done it, but the Chargers have been forced to do that sometimes. And so I think that would be huge. Yeah. So, okay, last thing I want to address, and then let's get over to this Rams news, if you will, with Russell Wilson and Bobby Wagner. And that kind of ties in with the Chargers too, if Wagner's a guy to go after. But what corner wants to play in the AFC West? Scary. Yeah, that, and I'm not calling you out or anything like that, because everyone says it and you could have been joking in how you said it anyway. But I think that's such a media and fan, I guess you could say, stereotype. You talk to any, not just corner, but specifically corner, but talk to any player. I mean, they want to compete. Obviously, there's some smarts to it. Like, okay, what's going to give me my best chance to get to the Super Bowl? But no player, especially a corner, especially. I mean, I've talked to a bunch of corners. We talked to Greg Newsome, the great Northwestern product, now with Cleveland. We talked to him on Radio Row. No corner is ever going to shy away and say, yeah, I'm not going to go play with that team because I don't want to cover Tyreek Hill. I don't want to cover Cortland Sutton. No corner is going to do that. So I'm just saying that a corner, absolutely, if the money's right and they feel that the Chargers are built to win, they're never going to second guess themselves and go somewhere where they might have an easier schedule or whatnot. So yeah, Steven, thanks for, since you're shouting us out, I'll put this back on again. Yeah, everyone make sure to sub and like the video. But yeah, family's good. Appreciate you. We'll talk, I'm sure, tomorrow. Make sure Steven's done a bunch of great articles on free agency on LFB Network, so make sure to check those out. I think he's dropping, if I'm not mistaken, Steven, cornerbacks tonight or tomorrow. So as we were talking about, mostly you can get his take on all the free agency corners the Chargers should target. So, all right, let's put a bow on that. Quickly move over now to the Rams side of things. And again, doesn't directly go with the Rams, but certainly affects the Rams. Russell Wilson traded to the Broncos today for a huge haul. 2 1s, 2 2s, a 5th, Drew Lock, Noah Fant, and Shelby Harris. I mean, you talk about when the Rams traded for Matthew Stafford last year, and they gave up 2 1s, a 3, and Jared Goff for Matthew Stafford. That was a lot of people, including myself. I'm not going to sit here and I like the trade. I liked it at the time. I thought anytime you upgrade the position, especially quarterback, it's a win. But it was a big haul. I mean, you were given 2 first-round picks and your starting quarterback, which a lot of that I think was because of his contract, and a 3rd. But man, you look at this haul now. 2 2s, 2 1s, and a 5 and 3 players for Russell Wilson and a 4th. It's a big haul. I think that shows, obviously, A, how much the Broncos were desperate for a quarterback, but B, how good they think Russell Wilson is, and C, how close they think they are to competing. And I would absolutely agree that, this move makes the Broncos absolutely competitor, which, I mean, I talk about affecting the Rams. This obviously directly affects the Chargers too, because now that is in the Chargers division. So leaves the Rams division, goes to the Chargers division. I mean, you look at the AFC West, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert. I know Derek Carr gets a lot of shit, but Derek Carr's a good quarterback. He gets a lot of crap. He is a good quarterback. He's had, some, I wouldn't say he's a top 5, wouldn't say he's probably top 10, but he's no scrub. But he's now the 4th best quarterback in that division. I honestly, if we're doing quarterback rankings off the top of my head right now, I honestly am comfortable saying I would put Herbert right with Mahomes. Right with him. Now, Mahomes have obviously proven more in the sense of being in the playoffs, I think, every year that he's been a starter. Obviously, he's been to 2 Super Bowls, won one. Herbert in his 2 years hasn't been to the playoffs yet, but just quarterback v. quarterback, I think Herbert's proven enough where it'd be like 1A, 1B. Then I'd have Russell Wilson. Then you have Derek Carr. But that is a gauntlet of a division. And it's going to be a hell of fun, not only to watch, but to cover, since we get it covered all year long. But for the Rams now, I mean, we talked about this a while back, that you look at the Rams, and I've been on a bunch of radio shows where people ask me, Rams have this, all-in mentality. If they don't win this year, what does that say about them? Or if they win this year, like, is it sustainable? It was like, look, Rams have all their core pieces locked in, albeit if they don't retire, but just under contract. Donald, Stafford, who's going to get a massive extension, Ramsey, Kupp, Woods, they're all locked in. To their core is locked in. And then they've shown that they're very good at developing those mid-round players, which is, everyone talks about, wow, that no first-round picks. Now they have no 2. Well, look at all their players. Look at all their significant role players. Greg Gaines, Tyler Higbee, Cooper Kupp, Jordan Fuller. We can go down the list. They're all back-end draft picks, 3 and lower. And they've proven that they can develop those. I mean, you look at that last drive of the Super Bowl. Look at the last drive. Well, you could include Cooper Kupp in there, who is the best receiver in football right now. All of them, not only homegrown, but mid-round draft picks minus Van Jefferson, who was a second-round draft pick. OBJ was out. Robert Woods was out. Tyler Higbee was even out, but he was a draft pick. You had Bryson Hopkins, basically a practice squad player all year, 4th-round pick. Cooper Kupp, mid-round pick. Van Jefferson, 2nd-round pick. Ben Skowronek, a 7th-round pick this year, rookie. That was what they were rolling with, and Matthew Stafford. So I say that I told a lot of radio shows that, this team is sustainable because look at what they've actually built. Like, if you really look at it, don't be a media hot take person giving up draft picks. Look at what they've actually built. And then 2, when you look at the scope of the NFC, and this was obviously before today, I was saying this, but if Rodgers and Russ were moved, which I was pretty confident for sure one of them would be. I mean, who else do the Rams really compete with? With Brady retiring, and we'll see how long that actually lasts, but as it stands, Brady retired. Who in the NFC, purely looking at the quarterback position, do they truly compete with? So Rodgers stayed. So yes, now the Packers are still obviously the Packers contender, but they're moving on from players. They tagged Devontae Adams, but they had to cut Darius Smith, who didn't play much this year anyway because of injury. But they got cap issues, so we'll see what they do. Let me take a sip here real quick. So, I mean, Brady retires. I mean, who in the NFC South? Matt Ryan. He's a shell of himself now. Carolina's a mess. New Orleans, who knows what they're going to be a quarterback? Got a new coach. Who knows what they're going to do a quarterback? The NFC North now. You got Rodgers still there, but you got Goff and Cousins and Justin Fields. Like, no competition there. And you look at our own division. if Russ left, which now he did, I mean, the Seahawks are going to trot out Drew Lock and probably a draft pick. Kyler Murray is a really fun, first half of the season quarterback, but hasn't proven anything other than that. I think he still can be. Like, of any of the quarterbacks in the NFC left outside of Rodgers, he's the biggest threat because he's at least shown that he has the talent. We just haven't seen it for a full season and playoffs. Thank you. So, okay, I knew I was drawing a blank on someone. Dak is the closest, but yeah, the Cowboys curse won't let him win. But yeah, Dak absolutely. Anyway, don't want to throw shade at that. I knew I was forgetting a division to look over, but obviously New York, Washington, Philadelphia, no threat there via quarterback. So, but I think no one would take the Cowboys over the Rams. So, and I wouldn't even take Dak over Stafford. But yeah, what you're saying is absolutely true. He's the most, competent and competitive. So this move is huge in two ways. In everything I just said, the Rams literally now have a one-team roadblock to get back to the Super Bowl, albeit all things, depending what happens in free agency, who they can re-sign, who they bring back, injuries, obviously. But, let's assume the team essentially stays the same. It's literally the Packers are like the only team truly standing in their way. Because I think Stafford's honestly going to get even better. I think he's going to be even better. I mean, 34 years old. The way these quarterbacks are playing nowadays, the way he's going to get more involved in the system. Don't forget, Robert Woods is going to be back. Now, unfortunately, OBJ will be gone till November. But hopefully by that time, offense is humming. And then guess what? Right in time for playoffs, you get OBJ back. If they re-sign him, which I think to me, that's a done deal. I think he'll be back in LA. So that's one huge caveat for the Russ news. I mean, Seattle was a down year this year anyway, with Russ being injured, but now he's gone for good. I mean, they're in full rebuild mode. As I mentioned at the top of the hour, they just, they released Bobby Wagner also. So legit full rebuild. The other piece of thing, though, to think about, and this is, I'm a positive guy. I don't believe this to be true, but it's worth mentioning. Von Miller, teased rather specifically that he might be going back to Denver. This is before Russ was traded, almost like he knew, right? He hasn't been shy about it. He's loved LA, put his heart and soul for the Rams, but he hasn't shied away from saying like Denver's his home. He would love to be a Bronco. I think he even said at one point, he's just working for the Rams, but he'll always be a Bronco. And he didn't say that. I don't want that taken out of context. He said it like with no disrespect. But that's just, he has a love for Denver and the Broncos. He just had a kid there. So his family is there. He was drafted there. He's been there for 10 plus years. His home is there. Everything. So he teased that. Then the Russ gets traded there. And so now it's like, okay, that's a real possibility because now they have their quarterback. He could go back home. Now I saw people saying like, well, look at the Rams who they have to go against in the division. Look at the Broncos now in the AFC West. Again, I don't think players truly, obviously it crosses their mind. I don't think that's a deciding factor. You're a competitor. You want to compete. You want to play against the best. You want to beat the best. If you're happy somewhere and your friends are there, your teammates are there, your home is there, I don't think someone's going to say, easier road to get back with this other team. So, if he were to go back, something that we need to think about, does that increase the likelihood that Aaron Donald now retires? Because remember, Aaron Donald was pretty choice with his words when he said, let's run it back if everyone's back. I'm paraphrasing, but essentially was saying like, I'm back if everyone's back. So if Von Miller were to leave, could that lead to Aaron Donald retiring? Which then begs the question is, Russ leaving Seattle go from a jubilation among Rams fans to one of the worst days for Rams fans if that ends up causing the retirement of the great Aaron Donald. Now, I personally do not believe, regardless if Vaughn resigns here or not, I don't think Aaron Donald I think he's too much of a competitor. I think this team is still very, very good. I think Von Miller obviously adds so much to this team that's how good of a player he is, how good of a leader he is. But it's not like the Rams are going to just like fold over and not do anything. Like they'll find a way to recap and recoup and get someone else in that can fill that role. Now, RV, what's up, my man? Thanks for joining. So when you Ryan, he's just 30-year-old, I can see it happening. Do you mean Aaron Donald retiring? Is that what you're saying you can see happening? Because it's such an interesting talk because I don't think anyone even thought about it 2 months ago. And it just like comes out Super Bowl week that maybe you meant can't see it happening. I just can't see it happening. That it comes out that he's contemplating retiring, has a family, I think 3 kids, basically accomplished everything he needs to accomplish. Like I think he'll go down as the greatest defender of all time. Now that he has the ring, you could still argue Lawrence Taylor. But I think for what he's done it's a harder position, in my opinion, to be as dominant as he's been. Can't see it happening. But yeah, I'm the same way. I think he teased it. I think it's definitely a thought in his mind. But as it stands right now, I've said 3 years left on his deal. It's like $50 million. Why walk away from that now? Why not finish your contract and then hanging him up, or win one more and then hanging up? Not that he needs any more money. But I think regardless, he's playing this year. I think, especially after a month away, I think he'll get that edge again. He's too much of a competitor. I think Sean McVay, the fact that he's for sure back, like they're gonna get the band back together. And there's talks about a contract extension, which I don't know if that's more so to free up, basically saying to AD, hey, we understand you're probably not going to play 6 years, but let's give you a 6-year deal where we can allocate money differently to still get you your worth, still get you your due, but then we can take that upfront money and then go sign another big name guy and run it back. Whether it being Von Miller or someone else if Von Miller does leave, maybe a Chandler Jones, which I think that's going to cost way too much money. But if they do extend Aaron Donald and move his money differently and change the wording on it, maybe they do that. Maybe they lose Vaughn and go for Chandler Jones. Again, I think it's too much money, but nothing's out of the realm of possibility with Les Snead and Tony Pastores and how they've done things. Yeah, I might retire. Yeah, I don't think he was doing that. I might retire equals I want more money. But that puts him in the negotiation seat, right? Gives him all the leverage. He's already making I think the most money by D tackle anywhere, but you never know. He's going to make a lot more now because they're going to do the last thing you want is your 30-year-old all-world player to just hang it up. So you're going to do everything you can to make sure he doesn't. So anyway, I say that long diatribe just getting at that this Russell Wilson thing could have very different implications. Very good, could be very bad. I don't think the bad can happen, but it's something to think about. Something to think about. You never know. So before we wrap the show up, any questions, guys, get them in here. Let's wrap up with your questions. Before I do, I want to just quickly tell you about one of our other sponsors of the show. It's a company called BetterHelp. Is something preventing you from achieving your goals? What interferes with your happiness? Well, if you check out betterhelp.com/LAFootball, they are here to help. BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. Everyone talks about mental health nowadays and how important it is, and rightfully so. It's extremely important and probably one of the most important things for you. And where better health puts people in front of you, you don't have to go to an office. You don't have to go anywhere. It's convenient. You can start communicating under 48 hours. It's not a crisis line. It's not a self-help. It's professional counseling done securely online. You can send a message to your counselor at any time. You get timely, thoughtful responses. All these licensed professional counselors specialize in depression, stress, anxiety, relationships, sleeping, trauma, grief, all the ends of the spectrum. So, check out BetterHealth. Again, that's betterhelp.com, betterhelp.com/LA football. And because you're my listener, you'll get 10% off your first month. So once again, that's betterhelp.com/LA football for 10% off. Join over 1 million people who have taken advantage of their mental health. All right. Any final questions? Get them in before we wrap up the show. Thank you all for tuning in. This is always the LA Football Podcast on the LA Football Network. I am always Ryan Dyrud. But exciting day for LA football in general. Really excited to see how these dominoes fall. Last thing I'll talk about Bobby Wagner, because I mentioned it, at least need to mention it again. I would think both teams will be interested, Rams and Chargers, that is. As I said a bunch earlier, neither team, or I can't say neither team, but the Rams and then Staley being with the Rams and Vic Fangio have shown that they really want to allocate a lot of resources for that inside backer position. They allocate resources for edge rushers, outside backers, corners, and stuff of that nature, but they haven't really shown a need to allocate money for that position. However, a guy like Bobby Wagner, I think it's worth looking into. He's probably one of my favorite players, not on the Rams or Chargers, on an opposing team, especially a rival team. He's just that good. So again, who knows what the price will be? Still, fairly in his prime. The guy's been on the All-Pro list every year of his career, basically, since like 2013, whether it's first team or second team All-Pro. That's just how good he's been. So you'd be silly not to at least consider it and look at it. And I think both teams will. And, on the Chargers, I think obviously you wouldn't re-sign Kaiser if you do that. But look at a combination of Bobby Wagner with Drew Tranquill and Kenneth Murray, who hopefully can improve and get better. I think there's a lot of excitement around that. You look at the Rams and you pair Ernest Jones, who had a breakout rookie year, who I know the Rams are in love with and is going to be dynamic and dominant for many years to come. But you're able to pair him with Bobby Wagner on the inside there as your two inside backers. I think you're looking at really good. And Bobby Wagner is not washed. I believe second team All-Pro last year. So he is still very, very capable. Now, again, it comes down to money. I don't know if he's worth that top tier, his old contract, or, what we saw Luke Kuechly getting back in the day. I don't know if he's still worth that kind of money, which is why I don't think the Rams and Chargers will truly actually make a move on it, but worth looking into. Definitely. So, that's going to do it for the LA Football Show. Like I said, thought it was going to be short and sweet. Here we are approaching an hour. What's new? So thank you all for tuning in. Like I said, big things happening with the LA Football Network. So keep it with us all off season, all free agency, all draft. For those that don't know, they're new. My show, the LA Football Show, covers all things LA football. We have our Charter specific show, Charters Unleashed, with Dan and Jake. We got our Rams show with Rams brothers, Nick and Dean Vespi. We got our UCLA specific show with Will Decker, the Bruin Bible. We have a new Trojan show we just launched with Alfred Rowe and Phil Robinson. And then we have, Sua's show is going to be launching soon. Got Brian Price's show launching soon. We got a betting show with Brittany Betts. We got a fantasy football show with the Desai guys. A lot of stuff going on at the LA Football Network, all LA football centric, plus all of our articles. We're putting out 10 to 15 articles every week, even in the off season. So make sure to tune into LAFBnetwork.com for all of your LA football needs. We're trying to really create something special here, and we appreciate all of your support. And, we just got more things on the docket. So by this, by next season, we hope to be the number one media content community currency in Los Angeles when it comes to your LA football team. So with that being said, have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday night. I will be back on Friday at 5:00. You can find us obviously right here on YouTube, on all your podcast platforms, but also on AM 1090, the mightier ESPN radio as well on Fridays. So enjoy your night. I'm Ryan Dyrud. Peace.